everyone. Thanks for tuning into my channel. I'm Kidest, and this is where I share tips, insights, guidance, some deep thoughts on the nature of reality, the nature of consciousness, empowerment, personal development, and all of that good stuff. If you're new to my channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can get notified when I share new videos on all of the topics that I talk about. Now, in this video, I want to get into the power of being discerning, being specific, being even picky about the labels you take on as part of defining your self-concept, defining your identity, defining your self-image, and your overall way of describing who you are and who you can become. Now, I studied psychology in university. I majored in psychology and minored in criminology, and it was a field that I was really passionate about learning from early on, from the moment I got introduced to philosophy in high school and learned about these philosophers coming up with these ideas of Hobbes's big floating head theory about human nature and the different sort of frameworks that emerged within the field of philosophy. I wanted to understand what mind was about and approach it and learn about personality, human nature, human capacity, human potential in a structured way. So I pursued education, higher education in the field of psychology, and it's a choice that I'm happy that I made, because it became the foundation to kind of an ever-increasing and ever-expanding understanding of consciousness and the nature of reality itself. So that was my beginning journey of exploring the nature of mind, cognitive processes, emotional processing, the nervous system, the brain, and all of that. Now, as I started learning about mindfulness and meditation in my spiritual development and the pursuit of my spiritual development, which came after university, I started meditating, I started self-inquiry, I got big into Advaita, non-duality, and sort of Eastern esoteric teachings, and I would explore my internal processes and really began to develop a direct experience of metacognition and that power to self-observe, that power to measure and notice and direct the mind itself, our thought processes, our internal way of organizing information, creating interpretation, creating meaning, and all of that. And that was the point when I started to be more picky about the labels I took on. Before that, before recognizing the power of the meaning that I was accepting to be true for myself, true about life, true about the various facets of embodied existence, before that awareness, I was very much a big subscriber into the different approaches we have on the planet so far to understanding human behavior. So having majored in psychology, I went through the DSM, the diagnostic manual that you use in psychology, in psychiatry and the like, to diagnose human behavior in certain ways. I went through that. It was DSM-4 at the time when I was in university. And it was something that made sense. It was a structured approach to understanding human patterns, personality patterns, the pro-social and antisocial behaviors that could emerge. And it was a way of sort of creating these categories to understand, define, describe, and even help to treat different patterns that emerge in human beings. But what happened when my mindfulness and meditation practice really brought on this sort of deeper contemplative awareness and this deeper understanding of my ability to self-regulate at a fundamental level even, was this level of discernment that allowed me to go, wait a minute, do I really want to take on this label? Do I really want to take on this description? And what will that do? when it came to understanding myself, my behaviors, my tendencies, and what have you. And I'll give a direct example. So prior to the expansiveness that I accessed through my spiritual practices, I had ages ago taken on that Myers Briggs personality assessment and had come up with the INFJ type. And for a long while, I was like, okay, that's who I am. I am an INFJ. And that became a kind of, a category I stuck myself in. But after developing that ability to sort of measure and assess the things that I said that I was, recognizing the flexibility, adaptability of the mind, of my nature, and even the expansiveness of my fundamental nature itself, I started to question those kinds of decisions, to say, okay, yeah, this test told me that I am an INFJ, therefore that's who I am. I stopped doing that. And when I did that, I recognized, wait a minute, yes, I am a bit introverted in some instances. I'm a writer. I love contemplative practices. I'm deeply introspective. I need to be for the kinds of stuff that I enjoy teaching and sort of bringing into the world. I like solitude. I like that time to, go inward and sort through ideas and thoughts and possibilities and give them shape and, put them out into the world. But I recognized that I was also someone that, used to dance on stage to an auditorium full of people, that I've given talks, that I've, trained or educated 100 people in one room, and that, I've led teams. I've run meetings with an organization of like 50 people in them or more. So that narrowed understanding of myself widened, and I was like, wait a minute, I definitely have a tendency to introvert, but I also can extrovert when I need to. I have that cognitive flexibility. I've demonstrated that throughout my life. So no, I'm not just this one personality type, that my personality is multidimensional. I would not have recognized the full scope of my behavioral tendencies and my preferences and my capacity had I not begun to measure and assess those choices that I was making and how I define myself. So I encourage anyone who's on that personal development journey, whether it's spiritual development, personal development, whatever type of self-transformative journey that you're on, one of the things that I encourage you to do is take a look at your tendency to accept the labels that are so readily available in the world. Now, I think that one of the greatest services that the field of psychology can make to human beings as a species is evolve how we diagnose and label and categorize human beings. I think one of the things that needs to happen, we need to move toward in that field, is adopt the flourishing model and the self-determination theory types of perspectives that really look at the capacity for human beings to evolve their personality, evolve their behaviors, evolve their tendencies, learn new skills, learn and adapt new behaviors that are more fitting of creating a life and an experience that is healthy and even flourishing. And to do that, our categories, our labels, our definitions, our expectations, our predictions of what human behavior can become have to change. We can't just leave it at where it's been for the last 100 years. We really can't. In order for human beings to really step into the evolutionary potential that's here, that they're capable of stepping into, that is demonstrated by what happens when individuals take on practices like mindfulness and meditation. We know that neuroplasticity is now a lifelong process. We know that we can change our brain. We also understand through what we're learning from the field of epigenetics, and Daniel Goleman has some really interesting work in this area. We know that change is possible at a fundamental level, and we're seeing this with gene therapy on a biological level. So I really hope to see the field of psychology begin to shift that diagnostic mindset that sort of puts people in boxes into a more flexible map of a continuum that allows for change in that experience. So we're no longer saying a person is this. This is who they are. This is their personality. It's fixed. That's it. They're stuck with that. We really have to move away from that. So until that field begins to move in that direction, though, I encourage the individuals who are on this track of personal development, of empowerment, of spiritual growth, personal growth, to begin to be discerning about the definitions that you accept and sort of plug into your self-concept, your self-image, your identity, your sense of self. The idea that personality is fixed is completely outdated. It is no longer supported by what we understand to be possible within the human nervous system, within human consciousness, and within the sort of evolving biological framework that we're in. It's just not an accurate model for where we are. So until such a time as, you know, the existing fields begin to evolve and bring in more flexible frameworks that allow for human thriving to be a default rather than an exception, I encourage you as an individual to take charge of what you take to be true about yourself. Because when you have that cognitive flexibility, you'll see the full range of who you are and who you can become, who you've been, who you are, and who you can transform yourself into being. So I wanted to share that, you know, the power of consciousness is vast. I am continually amazed at what's possible on, you know, many levels. And we are not stuck with anything that doesn't serve us. We are not biologically, psychologically, energetically, on any level, stuck with things that don't serve us. And when we accept this thing that's been made available to us by, you know, the power that creates worlds, we can be and will be amazed at just what we're capable of being, becoming, and expressing.